NASCAR driver will be running SRX full-time this season. Tony Stewart not confirmed to run the full SRX season. Ryan Truex announces deal with Joe Gibbs Racing. What is up, everybody? My name is Mitchell Brewer of Black Cat Sports, and today we have all sorts of racing news, and I emphasize racing news because SRX has been making all sorts of waves the last couple of days as they are getting ready for their second season. Yesterday, the group announced their IndyCar driver lineup, which will include newcomer Ryan Hunter-Reay joining Paul Tracy and Marco Andretti as full-time drivers in the series, with Joseph Newgarden also planning to do a one-off at Nashville. And as soon as that story broke from the Associated Press, everybody began wondering, okay, but where's the NASCAR news? After all, this is Tony Stewart's series. He's a big-time NASCAR guy, and no offense to any of my IndyCar followers, I think they're the bigger draw to the series. Well, today we got an answer to that question as the Jeff Gluck of The Athletic dropped an article detailing the NASCAR lineup, and it revealed that good old Ace Money Maker, shout out to you if you know that reference, has been making some money moves as Ryan Newman was announced as the newest full-time driver, joining Michael Waltrip, Bobby Labonte, and Greg Biffle, who will also compete full-time this season in the series. I think this is a really cool move. Ryan Newman, obviously, he was literally just full-time in Cup last season with Roush Fenway Racing, and he never really said he was retiring. He never said that he was formally done with racing full-time or done with racing in general. And, this just fits. I mean, SRX is this group of guys that are just these guys that have made a name for themselves in the past, superstars, if you will, and Ryan Newman fits that mold. He was a guy that was very popular in NASCAR. He really, when you think of an SRX driver like the guys that we saw last year, he's a dude that really fits the bill. He's a guy that I'm not at all surprised to see joining the series. And I think it'll be a lot of fun. I mean, Ryan Newman, he's known for being a guy that is very, very tough to pass. And I mean, this series is just full of aggressive guys, so maybe Paul Tracy and Ryan Newman will be getting into fights this year. Who knows? Maybe that's too predictable considering we saw Paul Tracy and Bobby Labonte and Hailie Deegan get into a fight last year. So who knows what kind of chaos Ryan Newman's going to get in the series. Maybe Ryan Newman's going to be a guy that's going to come in here and dominate the series because he's been a recent driver and has kind of that unique background to him where he's been racing dirt, he's been in NASCAR, he's got that recency to him where it seems to have helped a little bit with some of these guys. We saw Chase Elliott come in last year at the fairgrounds and come in and win in his only start. So it'll definitely be interesting to see if Ryan Newman is able to find that same success. But nonetheless, it's cool to see Ryan Newman still racing and still around. Sticking with SRX, in Jeff Gluck's piece, he also revealed in that article he had a conversation with SRX's new CEO, Don Hawk. And Don Hawk said in that article that he would not confirm or deny if Tony Stewart, the series founder, would return to the series in a full-time competing role. And this one kind of surprised me a little bit. I feel like part of the fun last year, and maybe some people got annoyed with it, I don't know, it was who can beat Tony Stewart in his own series. And really, nobody could. He ended up going out and winning the championship relatively easy. And I mean, that was kind of a side story in addition to all the other stories that were being made in the series. But it's very surprising not to see Tony Stewart fully committed yet. And granted, I'd still be pretty surprised if Tony Stewart wasn't going to be racing full-time in this series, especially since, I mean, he's going to be at every single race, and we all know Tony Stewart loves to race. I'd be kind of surprised to see if he didn't stay as a full-time driver, but at the same time, when Don Hawk makes a comment like this and essentially puts it out there that it's not a guarantee, I think there's a reason behind that, and maybe it's Tony Stewart backing away a little bit and saying, okay, I want other people to get the spotlight. I want other drivers winning the races. I don't want this to be just about me. And it does raise that question of, will he be racing this year? And honestly, if he's not, we saw how good of a job he did at the Daytona 500 in the commentary booth and at the Clash for that matter. Maybe Tony Stewart jumps into the booth with Alan Bestwick, and maybe they throw in another rotation of drivers like they did last season. I think that would work really well too. One thing I will give this series a lot of credit for is that Tony Stewart and this team that he's put together, not just in drivers, but the entire team around it that has built up the series and really marketed the series and found racetracks for the series. They know what they're doing. And I'm sure Tony Stewart has some sort of a plan as far as what his future holds in the series, whether it's solely as an owner, whether it's promoter, whether it's driver. I'm sure Tony Stewart has an idea of what he's doing. And wrapping up this Thursday news video, we got a little bit of NASCAR news to talk about, as well as Joe Gibbs Racing announced that Ryan Truex will be driving 4 Xfinity Series races for the team in the number 18. That will start next weekend at Vegas, followed by Martinsville, Darlington, and Texas, with all those races taking place earlier in the season. The move is a reunion of sorts, as Truex actually drove for the team, and he made a pretty big name for himself, if you remember correctly, back in the day when he drove for JGR in 2011 and 2012. And I'm not trying to be mean here, but that was really the last time we thought of Ryan Truex as this guy that maybe he could be like what we think of Austin Cindric, Chase Elliott, one of these guys that's going to be an up-and-comer and a future superstar of the sport, because he was a guy that looked really good in those Xfinity Series runs. And honestly, he's one of those guys that may have been in the wrong generation of the Xfinity Series. And I don't mean that to be mean, because back when Ryan Truex was racing in the Xfinity Series, it was dominated by Carl Edwards, Kyle Busch. There was no minimal or maximum schedule that those guys could run. Those guys could run every single race, and they did, and they dominated most of them. And it really kind of stunted the growth of Truex and a bunch of guys like Jason Leffler, Reed Sorensen, in that series, where maybe they would have gotten more exposure if it wasn't for those guys. And ever since really that 2011, 2012, Ryan Truex has really struggled to get a footing in the sport as a full-time driver. We saw him at Burger King Racing. We saw him the last couple of seasons with Nice Motorsports. And really, that one, I expected more of Ryan. I mean, Nice Motorsports isn't the same team that they were when they first entered the series and having that big exclusive partnership with GMS Racing. But last year we saw Carson Hocevar outdrive Ryan Truex on a pretty regular basis in the Camping World Truck Series. And it's just really been kind of a what if for Ryan Truex. But, you know, he's got a big opportunity in front of him, and it's going to be really interesting to see how he can take advantage of this. And this is going to really be a test for Ryan Truex. We saw Ty Dillon come into a Joe Gibbs Racing car. That Joe Gibbs Racing car that Ty Gibbs went on to win several races in. And we saw Ty Dillon not really do anything that impressive. And honestly, it surprised me when he was back in Cup full-time, because he didn't really seem like he was actually he didn't prove capable of the opportunity in front of him. And this is a big opportunity for Ryan Truex. I think the door is probably closing on full-time opportunities for Ryan Truex. I think the door is probably closing on him getting that big impact in NASCAR. And this is a golden chance for him to go out and show, hey, my brother's not the only guy that can go out and win races. I'm not Ryan Truex Jr. I'm Ryan Truex, period. So I'm very intrigued to see how that move works out. And I'm very excited for the SRX season coming up this season. I hope you stick with the channel as we cover it all as we get through the year. We're only in February still. We still got a long way to go before we even get to the SRX debut, before we even get to the SRX finale, before we even get to championship weekend in NASCAR. And again, I hope you guys stick around for the journey that is this 2022 season. I hope you subscribe. I hope you follow me on Twitter at I got hit myself. On Twitter at MitchellB66 and on Facebook at Black Cat Sports. Thank you all so much for watching.